Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we got a good one lined up for you. I'm excited to dive in. We're talking about brain glue. That doesn't sound very exciting, maybe, based on my hype there, but we're talking about how to make a boatload of money and how to have people remember you and your brand. And that, I think, is very exciting. I have a very special guest, James I. Bond. James, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Brandon. You rock. Thank you for having me on your show. Love it.
I couldn't be more excited. We got to know each other a little bit before we started recording here, and just the little nuggets you shared with me already are blowing my mind. So why don't we jump in with brain glue? It's the title of your book. You can see it in the background there if you're watching. What is brain glue?
So I discovered that there are certain things that stick to the brain like glue. If I say something like Jack and Jill went up we all
Hill.
remember it's hill. Exactly. And I'm sure everybody is saying that. And yet you might not have heard it for me 10, 20, maybe 50 years, 60 years ago. I'm old. And yet it sticks to the brain like glue. I can be in my deathbed and somebody says, "Hey, James, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water." How do I remember it? You know, so there's a famous song that we probably all know. I was standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona, such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me. I'm not a good singer, so I'm not going to sing it. But they never even tried to do this, but because it's in their song, Winslow, Arizona became hugely popular. I had this woman who was telling me, have you ever been to Winslow, Arizona? It's like it's a hole in the wall. But they have a statue of a guy with a guitar leaning against a lamppost with a sign standing on the corner, and behind it in huge letters on a building, it says Winslow, Arizona. People are riding, along Route 6. Oh, let's go check it out. They take photographs of themselves and probably buy lunch there or whatever else. But it's just because there are certain things that stick to the brain like glue. And when we understand that, it blows our minds. Let me give you a perfect example. Okay, just a quick example, and then you can ask me stuff. But so there's a guy and his mom in Utah who love Shark Tank. And so, she's telling him, wouldn't it be fun if we can invent a product and make some money and get on Shark Tank? Then we'll become millionaires. It'll be great. Okay. So they said, okay, great. Well, we got to come up with a product. Okay. So it took them about a month. Well, she was constipated, and a doctor told her, when you're on the toilet, if you can raise your feet 6 to 8 inches off the floor when you're on the toilet, it changes the shape of your body and makes it easier to go to the bathroom. I don't want to get too much into this, but they said, oh, that's a great idea. She tried it and it worked. And they said, well, we should create a little stool, like a toilet stool that you slide under the toilet, and whenever you want to, you slide it out and put your feet on it. That's a great idea. They found a plastic manufacturer. It cost them a few $1,000s to make these things. And so they're thinking, what are we going to call it? Well, it's a toilet stool. We always start with the logic, the toilet stool, okay? But emotion sells, not logic. That's what brain glue is all about. It's how do you take something logical that you have and make it emotional so people go, whoa, okay? And so they're thinking toilet stool. What's another word for toilet? Potty. And I'm kind of squatting when I'm on there. Squatty Potty. They went from 0 to $100 million of sales in less than 2 years. 0 to $100 million with no business experience. All of us have business experience, and we struggle to try to make some money and do really well. They made over $100 million in less than 2 years, and they're still growing. Okay.
So I'm laughing. I'm laughing here for two reasons. This was not planned. For those of you who are loyal listeners of Harmonious at Lunch, first of all, thank you. We literally just talked about Squatty Potty in yesterday's episode, which I recorded literally a couple hours before I'm having this conversation. So I'm finding this hysterical that you're talking about Squatty Potty. And I said, Squatty Potty, hey, we're open to sponsorships. I love the product. I'm a user of the product. And I just think this is so funny. But that's a great example. Also in combination with what we just talked about on that episode. But yeah, you can see how the name is just, it's very clear, it's catchy, it's memorable. And fun fact, because again, I do love the product. There's like a bajillion of these things on Amazon. And I couldn't for the life of you tell you another name of them. But that's just a great example of how it is truly brain glue. And we associate all of those other brands with Squatty Potty because they've owned that space. So sorry to cut you off. I just thought that was so funny and ironic that we're talking about them.
Perfect. So how do you like that? How would you like this? Okay. How would you like to invent a product and someone you hate steals your product idea and makes a fortune while you starve to death? Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah.
Well, I don't maybe we have different definitions of fun, James, but I'm curious about the story.
Kidding. It would not be fun. It would be the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life. So let me give you an example of this thing happened. Okay. So Post Cereals competes with Kellogg's. And the head of Post Cereal said, let's invent a product totally different from cereal so we can just compete with Kellogg's and like maybe pass them. And so his second in command, they were working together and they came up with this idea of this cake. Okay, it's a little cake that you put strawberry, blueberry, raspberry jam inside it. And you can put it inside a toaster. Don't guess what it is yet. And then when it comes up out of the toaster, you have this nice warm cake that's really cool. And they said, why don't we call it Country Squares? Really cool name. Okay, stupid name. 3 months before they launched it, you already know, everybody probably knows what product I'm talking about. 3 months before they launched it, he promoted it to the media saying, we got this new product called Country Squares. Look at this, and showed pictures of it and everything else. So the head of Kellogg saw this and went, oh my God, this is an incredible product. Guys, come here. I want you to figure out how to make that product, okay? Because they're launching it in 3 months. I need to know as fast as possible that you guys can make it, okay? So we can make it. So they figured out how to make it. But he said, we need a better name. So it pops out of the toaster. There's something called sense elevation. So what's the sense? A sound. Pops out of the toaster. So we should call it pop something. And back then, Andy Warhol was really famous as a pop artist. Pop art, Pop-Tart. Let's call it Pop-Tarts. Okay. He launched it 1 week before Country Squares, of course. Okay. And then sales exploded. People went Pop-Tarts. That's a cool name. Whoa, look at texture products. You can't forget what the name is. He sold out, and so much so that he actually had to run apologies in newspaper ads saying, we are so sorry, but just hang on for a couple of days. We'll get more Pop-Tarts. They couldn't. It became the biggest selling product that Kellogg's ever had. Nobody bought Country Squares. And just he went for they tried for about 5 months. They ended up stopping to sell it because nobody was buying Country Squares. Pop-Tarts sold so much that I was just reading something. Last year, they still are selling Pop-Tarts. They sold more than 3 billion Pop-Tarts, while Country Squares don't exist anymore, And it's because he recognized that we have a cool name. And you want a cool name. I mean, it's just, we have the restaurant, what's it called? The restaurant with the guys with, if you can come up with a really cool name for your restaurant, I'm trying to remember it. I forget the name, but
I guess they don't have a cool name. It's not brain glue.
Exactly. No, it's the guy who has. They're wearing simple clothes with shorts. It doesn't matter. I'll think of the name. But it's just when you come up with a name that resonates, that sticks to the brain like glue, then it becomes easier to sell your product. Usually, not always, but usually. And so there's certain names of products that you want to. Hooters. That's what I was thinking of. Hooters. Okay. So they didn't start with a lot of money. They started with a restaurant, but they said, why don't we call it Hooters? Okay. And so people think, well, Hooters, that sounds really cool. And it's girls with bikinis, but with shorts, they're wearing shorts. There's nobody naked in it. Okay.
I don't know. I can't give 100% of the credit to the name of Hooters, but I'm sure it doesn't hurt. I'll say that. They might have a different marketing strategy than just the name.
Well, but I live in Southern California, and it isn't like they have naked girls or anything like that. It's just a regular restaurant, except that it's called Hooters and it's got the girls and dressed nicely. But They're going to open one up. I'm in like Thousand Oaks, California. So they were going to open a Hooters in Thousand Oaks, California, and people fought against it and said, "No, we don't want a Hooters near our kids," and they fought it. So they ended up opening up in a related city just next to us. But yeah, these guys make over, they're worth over $100 million, and so we want to recognize that there are simple there are simple tools you can use that will help you develop a product or service that takes off like gangbusters. Like, I'll give you a good example. I learned this from experience I had, but one of the people I met was John Gray. And John Gray was telling me, I was just telling you about John Gray was telling me about this incredible book he wrote called Men, Women, and Relationships. And people who read it loved the book, and yet almost nobody bought it. Then he got this crazy idea. What if I change the title to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and then refer to it throughout the book, but keep the same book? Sales exploded. They went from 20,000 to 50 million copies sold. Okay. And so I realized this is a metaphor. Men are not really from Mars. I know a lot of women out there probably think we are. I got it. We act like it sometimes, but we're not really from a different planet. Okay. But it's a metaphor because men are not really from a different planet. But it's like, basically he's saying, men act so differently that sometimes it's almost like they're from a different planet than women are from. And so Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus says that. So that's a metaphor. Okay. So Paul Tran invented metaphors are powerful. Paul Tran invented an electric razor for man's private areas. I don't want to get too much into it, but it works. I don't have it. I never bought it, but he was thinking, I want to come up with a name so people know what the product is, but I don't want to offend people. So what's a good name? It's just like a lawnmower. Oh, why don't I call it the lawnmower? And I'll call my company Manscaped. So we landscape a man with a lawnmower. Okay. I was
we just talked about them on the last episode as well. James,
were
you on the last recording? I have to know. Were you listening?
No, not the last one. I was actually down below that, so I missed that one. But anyway, I'm giving you good examples of this so you can understand how to use this. Okay. So if I was in Bed Bath & Beyond, my wife wanted to buy something, whatever else, and they had a poster, and the poster said the lawnmower with an arrow, and it was pointing to the electric razor. And underneath it, there's text describing it. And so there are two guys there who were up there reading the text. And then I went up there and I went like, the lawnmower? What? And I started reading the text and went, oh, okay. Now, I never bought one. But if I bought one, I can see calling my friend and saying, hey, Joe, guess what I just bought? What? The lawnmower. Why, you have to mow your lawn? No, it's for shaving man's private areas. I can hear him laughing and calling his wife, hey, Mary, guess what James just bought? What? The lawnmower. Why does he have to mow his lawn? No, it's to shave man's private areas. And she'll start laughing and share it with her. Guess what James just bought? It just becomes viral. And so we want to understand that, if we can create a name, a product name, or a slogan that goes viral, then we can make a fortune without having to spend a lot of money. And this is, if you're a huge company, if you're a multi-billion-dollar company, then you could spend like $10 million to do advertising and marketing. You don't need a cool name. It's like, look at a lot of the drugs that they sell and all that stuff. They don't need a fabulous name because they've got millions of dollars to spend to train us. Okay. But for most of us, we don't have millions of dollars to spend. So we want to use the tools. And so like one of the tools, is metaphors. I was talking about metaphors. And so here's a really good example for all of us to apply. Okay. It's just like what? Okay. Fill this out, but be as crazy as possible. Go way outside your comfort zone. It's just like what? Okay. And when you do that, you can come up with a metaphor like the electric razor, the lawnmower, you can come up with a metaphor. And if you don't want to use that, then at least you can work down on that. But often when you come up with a metaphor, you can make a lot of money. Like, John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Jack Canfield sold 100 million Chicken Soup for the Soul books and 400 million of the other Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, Chicken Soup for the Cancer Survivor Soul, 500 million books. If you make $1 a book, he made over $10 a book, but $10 a book times 500 million is how much? It's 10 billion. I mean, it's just, it's just 5 billion. But But the point is, he made a fortune because he came up with this incredible. He wrote a good book, but there are a lot of people that have really good books or good products, and they don't. You struggle to sell them. But these are people that I'll go back to the for the Squatty Potty. They didn't have a lot of money, and yet they generate over $100 million of sales already. They're way past it now. Okay. And it's because they came up with a name that resonates. And what you want is a name or a slogan that resonates, and it becomes easier to sell because we all want our stuff to go viral. Viral marketing. There's these two guys, or I think three guys, who started a company that was selling rags, and they called it a nickname for rags is pigs. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but it is. So they said, let's call it New Pig Corporation. They import rags from China. I think now they make them themselves, but they would import rags from cheap countries and stuff like that. And they would sell them to car mechanic places and stuff like, places like that. But they would wear a hat. Eventually hired salesmen as they grew, and they would have a pig's hat. It had a pig's nose in the front and a pig's tail in the back. And they would walk in and everyone would laugh. Hey, who's this? Oh, it's New Pig Corporation. They have a catalog. They call it the Pigalog instead of the catalog. And these guys they're already close to $1 billion of sales. Okay. And these are just three guys who just, they started a rag business and they wanted to, get people to remember it. And so they would laugh and they would say, hey, buy rags from us and I'll give you a hat. And they go, yeah, I want the hat. Okay. How many rags do I have to buy? Two dozen. Okay, got it. And they would sell it and have fun. And it's just, I saw this guy with a t-shirt and it was life sucks and then you die. And I'm like, no, that's terrible. Life is fun right now. And so you want to have fun when you're selling your product. And then if the more fun you have, it doesn't always have to be fun, but often you can have fun. I mean, go back to Squatty Potty. I had a heart operation about 2 months ago, really crappy, heart bypass surgery. It's like, ugh. It's worse than I thought it was going to be. It's tougher. But when I was in the hospital, so I'm talking to a nurse and she says, so what do you do? So I said, I wrote a book, Brain Glue. She said, oh, what's it about? So I told her the story of Squatty Potty. And she said, I got to tell you this. I'm a nurse. I know that when you're on the toilet, you want to raise your feet. So I have this little carton that I put on and raise my feet up. But I was in a store and I saw Squatty Potty and I had to buy it because I loved the name. This is a woman that already had something that did that, but she still bought Squatty Potty because the name resonated with her. And that's why for us, we want to come up with a name that's so cool that people go, whoa, that's, the lawnmower. And it doesn't have to be the lawnmower, but there are a gazillion. And that's what Brain Glue talks about. There are a gazillion, the people that are like massively wealthy, and they became massively wealthy because they use certain tools. Rhyme is a good tool. They got O.J. Simpson was, in court for, in trial for murder, and he got off. And why did he get off? In a large part because if the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit.
Yep.
Rhyme, I remember there were two jurors at the end of the trial, and they were asked, with all that evidence against OJ, how come you found him not guilty? And one of them said it while the other one nodded her head in agreement. And she said, we knew if the glove don't fit, you must quit. The glove didn't fit, we had to acquit. They're repeating the rhyme. That's how powerful it is. But rhyme works so much that it sells. And that's what we want to remember, is that rhyme sticks to the brain like glue. And you want people to go like, whoa, And I'll just give you this example. So next to my computer, I have a TV. Normally I don't have it on, but for whatever reason, I had it on. And it had a commercial for Blue Emu. Blue Emu is like anti-arthritis cream. You put it on your joints, your elbows and your shoulders, whatever else, if you're having pain. And it had a famous baseball player who was doing the ad, but I could care less because I was just doing my work. And then he says, Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. What did he just say? That moment forward, I was watching the commercial in detail. What does he mean? It works fast and you won't stink. What the hell is he talking about? But it hooked me to the product. Now, I didn't buy it because I have arthritis. But I mean, I can see it just grabs your attention. And that's what we want, is we want to remember that we're competing against a gazillion ads and products and ideas and just information. I mean, we live on our computers and our phones and all that stuff. And so there's so much competition competing for their mind that if we can't grab their attention somehow and make them go like, what? That's interesting, that we probably won't sell a lot. And it goes back to, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I was in a bookstore, and I'm looking at books, and book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. What's that all about? And I picked up the book and I started looking at it. I went, oh, this is really cool. And I ended up buying it. Now, there's a woman who used this. How would you like to have no money, spend no money, and have 5 million fans on Facebook? Wouldn't that be cool?
That's pretty compelling.
Yeah, really. Well, so here's how this woman got 5 million fans without spending a dime, okay, on Facebook. So she's a stay-at-home mom, and she said, I want to create a Facebook page. So what would I create? So let's see, mommy. It's a mommy one because I'm a mommy one. So mommy needs time to herself. Mommy needs a rest because it's exhausting being a mommy. I know what mommy needs. Mommy needs vodka. So she creates a page, mommy needs vodka. So one of my friends must be one of her fans, okay? And then so because of that, I ended up getting one of the posts. I looked at the post. It was really a funny post. And I went, oh, okay, it's by Mommy Needs Vodka? What? Got to click on that. Mommy Needs Vodka. Click on it. I went to her page, and I loved some of her posts that she had. So I became a fan, just like 5 million other people, because it woke up my brain. You're looking at Facebook post, Mommy needs vodka. What the heck? Click. Just like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Just like, Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. I mean, I work with Warren Buffett, world's richest man. He was at one point, and his team, they brought me in. And Warren Buffett loves these types of tools. And I think I told you this before, but, he used a trigger word. And his trigger word was this. He said, only when the tide goes out, you discover who's been swimming naked. Naked? What? I say with my book, my book grabs your attention like a naked man running through your backyard. You look in the backyard and you see a naked man, you go, what? That's what my book does. It gets you to become so attention grabbing. You're like a naked guy running through your backyard. There's naked juice. And I was telling you about that. Naked juice passed these two guys who didn't have a lot of money, and they were competing with Odwalla, that's owned by Coca-Cola. And yet they zipped past Odwalla to become the number one juice. Now, they're a good juice, but there are a lot of products that are good, but you don't sell a lot. But the name Naked, they actually had it small on their label. And then sales were doing really well. So they hired a graphic artist because they suddenly had a lot more money. And the graphic artist said, we're going to make the word naked big. And they said, you think so? He said, yeah, for sure. You got to make it big. Okay. The rest, as they say, is history. Their sales exploded because of the word naked, There's a movie, Naked Lunch. It's a book called Naked Lunch. It's like, naked? What? It's like dirty. I would think, would you put the name dirty on your product? And yet think of Dirty Dancing, Dirty Harry, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I'm old enough to remember The Dirty Dozen, I mean, it's like movie names. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Yeah, I mean, he did all these other movies, and yet if you ask him, can you remember one of his movies, that everybody remembers The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
It grabs your attention. And so, these are tools that when you look at them, when you learn them, you start realizing, oh, that's why Coca-Cola is so famous. That's why, Bed Bath and Beyond and, Build-A-Bear, It's sensible, it's alliteration and repetition of sound.
Yeah, it's so clear how obviously this is applicable to business and especially our audience, and we could explore this for hours upon hours, but we got to wrap this episode up. James, this has been phenomenal. I'm going to toss your website on the screen here for those of us listening. Where should somebody go to get a copy of your book, learn more about this, and really dive in so they can apply it to their business?
Well, it's available on Amazon for sure, and in bookstores. But if you go to yesbrainglue.com, it'll give you a whole bunch of information on it, including Jack Canfield, who said, you're an idiot if you don't buy the book. It's like, okay, thank you. Can I use that as a quote? I got a whole story with Jack Canfield. I mean, the guy is massively wealthy, and yet he's just like forcing his people to read it and to use it. But it's just when you start reading it, it triggers your brain and you start going, oh, I got to do this too. And then, people change the name of their products or slogans when they realize this, and suddenly sales explodes. It's really fun. So yeah, yesbrainglue.com. If we're in business, you're an entrepreneur trying to make some money. This will help you in ways you won't even believe it.
I love it. Yeah. Don't be like Country Squares, I think was their name. I don't even fully remember, to be honest with you, but that was one of the takeaways from this episode is it might not be what you think it is to just get a little bit more attention and for people to remember your brand. I think, for me, the bigger takeaways from this episode is if you apply this stuff, you might just get off of murder. Not that we're advocating that, like OJ. And then finally, of course, Squatty Potty, like sponsor the show at this point. 2 episodes in a row, we're shouting you out. Love Squatty Potty. But James, thank you so much for being here. This episode was absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to go grab a copy of the book myself. I just can't thank you enough for being here and sharing your wisdom with our audience.
Oh, Brandon, thank you so much for having me. And you guys listen to a whole bunch of, if you like this episode, you got to listen to other episodes. He is awesome. Brandon rocks.
James, thank you. I appreciate that. For those of you who are watching and listening, if you haven't subscribed and you love what we're putting out, make sure you go subscribe on whatever platform you're listening right now. We put out 5 of these episodes a week because we're crazy, but we love you and we want to help you build a more harmonious business and life. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for watching.